Good morning, stampers and card makers, and happy day after Memorial Day. I've been trying to do this video for several days now. This is actually the cards that we made at Women's Connection on May 14th, so that's been a couple of weeks, and I've been trying to find the time to do this video, and it just keeps slipping away from me. But this morning I have a few minutes before my husband gets up. He gets up way later than I do in the morning. So it's nice to have a little quiet time, and I'm going to show you how I assembled these cards. So starting with this first one, this is a flip-flop card, which is very dear to me because I live in flip-flops all year long. Even though I'm in Colorado, I wear flip-flops in the winter too. This has this cute little, it has a little mechanism underneath here that allows us to do this little fun little spring action. And then on the inside, it just says, "Life is better in flip-flops." I have a t-shirt that says that too, and I also wear that all winter long. Okay, that's the first card. The next one is just a very simple happy birthday card. There is some embossing on this beautiful background. It just is some rough, gives a little texture to it. But other than that, it's just a very simple, straightforward card. And on the inside, it says, "Wishing you every happiness this special day will bring." And I actually had that in several different colors. I don't have all the colors here, but here are two of them. And then the card we're actually going to make today is going to be a third color. And then this is the really fun one. This is a little bit challenging, but not really too much. It's more just a lot of steps to complete it. So on the front it says, "Hello friend," and when you open it, on the side it says, "Celebrating all the wonderful things about you," and then this little area is to write a personal note. So let's go ahead and start with this one, because the other two will go very quickly once we get started. This card actually was designed by another Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Her name is Terry Gaines, and you can see a video and all the measurements on her website. It's called createwithterrygaines.com, and it's TerriGaines. And I'm going to see if I can put that close. There it is, createwithterrygaines.com. And hopefully you can get that off of there if that's what you would like. But this is what you will find on her site. All of these instructions and measurements, which is great. And I thank Terry for the opportunity to make this card. So let's go to the kit. I'm using some designer paper. You can see this one has yellow flowers. This has white flowers. That's because I took my yellow marker and I colored in the yellow on this. And I actually have a kit here that has that yellow already colored in. So let's go ahead and use that one, because I don't want to take the time here to color that in, because I think everybody knows how to color. But you can see the difference. This one is actually several shades brighter than the original one, but I kind of like that brightness. So I'm going to swap this back into this other kit and set that aside. So when you open the kit, you will see that there's a piece for the inside. There's this piece for the second, well, let's see, third panel, and then this piece for the front panel. And this piece of paper, actually, the base of it, to get those panels, you're going to take a piece of paper that is 11 inches long, 5.5 inches tall, and then you will score it. And I do the valley folds and the mountain folds. I flip the paper over to do them so that they fold properly when you get ready. So the first thing I did is I folded on this side. I did a score line at 1 3/4, let me flip this back over. Okay, I did a score line because you fold away from the score lines at 1 3/4 inches, and then the next skipped one, this score line is at 3.5 inches. No, it's not. It's at 5 1/4 inches. Okay, let's start that over. This first one is 1 3/4 inches from the left edge. The third one is 5 1/4 inches. Then I flipped the paper over and I did the other two score lines. So this score line, the one between the first two, is at 3.5 inches, and then this last score line is at 7 inches. And then you fold away from that score line. The reason you do that is because when you make a score line, you're breaking down and stretching the fibers in the paper. So if you fold away from that score line, you're going to get a better, nice, crisp crease. So we're going to flip this back over, and this is the card base. That's giving you all those fun folds on the front, and this will fit into a regular A2 size envelope. That's the 5 3/8 by 5 7/8. 5 3/4 inch envelope. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take this piece of paper, and this is a fun embossing folder. It looks like a beehive, and I think that may be what it's called, is the Hive embossing folder, 3D embossing folder. And I'm just going to go ahead and put adhesive on the back of it, and that's going to be the inside of the card. When I have embossing like this where there's not as much of the paper hitting the cardstock, I like to add a little extra adhesive just to make sure it's going to stay on there. And then that piece is just going to go centered on the largest of the three panels, the one to the right. Okay, then this next piece, this is, it's got these little dots. You could use either side, actually, whichever one you like. I'm going, actually, maybe I will use this one. I kind of like that. So I'm going to put that, because I've already got a lot of daffodils on the front. I don't know that I actually need more daffodils here. So I'm going to line this one up in the third panel. And then we have right here. And then on the first panel, that's where I'm going to put my colored in daffodils. So right here is where these daffodils are going to go. So then when you fold it up, you've got these layers. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do in this little packet, this is actually a Ladybug Punch I used to make these pieces parts, but instead of cutting it out of red and black, what I did is I used some striped paper. It was black and white striped paper, and I punched just a portion of the body. I didn't do the head. I cut right up to the head of the ladybug, and then I colored the white portion again with my yellow marker. So for this piece, what I'm going to do is the punch that I used has the ladybug body and it has the wings, and I kind of folded it over a little bit to punch this piece, and I put some score tape on the inside of that. So what I'm going to do is remove the backing from that score tape, and then I'm going to just center this and fold down the wings so that that portion of it is on the inside, and then the wings will flap freely, which is kind of fun. On this card, you might notice that the wings fit a little closer. That's because after I put them on there, I took my scissors and I kind of trimmed the outer edge of it so it lined up with the top of this piece. And I think I'll go ahead and do that on this one too. Although I like it this way, I'm going to attach it to the body first. So I'm just going to use my regular tape, and I'm putting it only on this body portion, not on the wings at all. And then I'm going to line that up so that it fits right onto the black piece. Okay, so you can see how that, over here, you can kind of see how that hangs out beyond the body or beyond the head. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to trim that down just a little bit, just to bring it in line with the top of the body. And then I'm going to flip it over. It's easier for me to cut from the bottom to the top. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, just kind of angling that in so that it lines up with the top. And now we have our little bee. And we're going to set that aside for the time being. And we're going to put the inside of the card in there. So you have a whole bunch of little squares here. Let's see, in this little guy, we have a stamp for that. And I believe that I have that in another kit where it's already stamped. So, yes I do. Oh, I used the wrong bee. This is the bright bee that goes with these flowers. So let's use that instead. I'm going to set these aside and I'm going to assemble another bee because it goes fast, and because if you notice, this bee body matches up with that yellow that's on the daffodils. So again, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to remove the backing from the Scor tape. I'm going to fit that to the top of this striped piece, the bee body, and then I'm going to attach, I'm not putting anything on the wings, just on the back of the body, and I'm going to attach that to the bee so that that lines up right over the black piece. And then again, I'm going to trim those edges so that they come right up to the top there. It makes the wings shaped a little bit differently, but I think it still looks good. And I like it better when it's kind of close to the body, close to the neck, if you will. Okay, so then this hello friend is going to go on the front with the bee. Then I have these other little pieces in this baggie. And these pieces I have marked very clearly because, oh my gosh, this just is so counterintuitive. It just does not fit the way I would have expected it to, but it does fit. So this is going to go on the front, and I'm going to set that aside with the bee body. This is the little card that's going to go on this front piece. That's this piece that's going to open up and fit on these pieces. So we're going to set that aside. Oops, my little llama is coming off over here. Okay. And I'm going to set this aside because that's going on to that little part too. But for the inside, you have a smaller piece of white cardstock, and then you have a black square, and that fits right on there. So we're going to put that on the inside. I'm going to put a little tape on the back of this piece, and I'm going to just line it up and center it on this little bit larger square, and then I'm going to adhere that to the inside of the card. And I'm going to try to center that. Oh, maybe put it right there in the middle. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Might be a little bit to the right, but that'll be fine because we're going to fix that when we assemble the front. Okay, so now we're going to take this piece, and I've labeled this very clearly. This piece is actually 3 inches by, no it isn't, this piece is 5 inches long, 2.5 inches from top to bottom. And I scored it halfway, so it's scored at 2.5 inches. Then I flipped it over and I put score tape at both ends on the inside of this card. And I'll show you why I did that. First of all, I've labeled these pieces. This is the piece that's going on the inside. This is the piece that will be on the front. And I've got this one labeled with words and up because it just doesn't work for me the way it's supposed to go on there. Just is not the way it makes sense to people. So this is actually the back that opens this way, and we're going to put the little sentiment on there and just center that on there. Okay, and then what we're going to do is remove this score tape. You know, I've already messed up. That's not what we're going to do. What we're going to do is remove the score tape from the opposite side. This is the side where the yellow is going to go. And again, this is up. And this piece, I think it's going to be less confusing if I put this stuff on first. So I'm going to put this little hive piece right here. And now this is the front. What I'm going to do is remove the score tape from the front. I'm going to close these two sections. Okay, so I'm looking at this. I'm going to put this part, this is the back piece. I'm not removing the tape yet. I'm just kind of putting it under this flap, and I'm sliding this over so that I can line this up to cover that piece that we put on the inside. And then I'm going to attach that. This is the side that had the score tape on it. I removed it and I adhered it to the front flap. Okay, then all you have to do is open it up. This includes both of the flaps. Excuse me, I need a little sip of coffee to clear my throat here. Ah, better. Love my coffee. Okay, so then all you have to do is you're going to, these are the two flaps we had. You're closing this over both flaps. You're going to remove the other piece of score tape, and all you're going to do is close that. So now, when you close the card, it's covering up this piece on the inside, and when you open it, you have the little celebrating you on the inside. So the rest of it is just putting on the bumblebee and the little hello friend. The hello friend, I just put a little adhesive on the not cut side, the flat side, and I just kind of put it up here. And the bumblebee, I wanted to pop up a little bit, so I took a little bit of foam tape and put behind the body. Put a little behind the head, and I put a little behind the bottom. And then all I have to do is remove the score tape and add the bee, and this card is finished. Like I said, it goes together very quickly, but it does have some very specific steps that you need to follow in order to get it to go together the way it's supposed to. I'm just going to put this little bumblebee right here. So now we have the really brightly colored daffodils on this card. And then we have the and bee body, and then this one we have the not so bright daffodils and bee body. I'm not sure which one I like better. I do like the contrasting brightness of this one against the honeycomb or the hive embossing folder, but you decide which one you like better. Okay, we're going to set that one aside, and thanks again to Terry Gaines for this great idea. It was so much fun to make. You know, I just realized she also has a YouTube video if you want to see another way to put this together. And this is her YouTube video site. You can see that on there. It's pretty big. So I'm going to hold that up there just for a few minutes so you can write that down. And again, this diagram that she has on that site has all of the measurements. The only difference is for this 2 by 2 inch piece, I actually made that 2 1/4 by 2 1/4, the same as this piece on the front, because I like the shape of it a little better. Where it says here to put the tape, the Scor tape, actually this is on the back side. What she's showing is the front side, and then she's showing where on the inside, on the back, is where you would put the Scor tape. So, great video, great instructions, and let's move on to the next card. Let's do the happy birthday card. This is very simple, very straightforward. I did this for a stamp camp in Longmont, and we were supposed to do a manly card, and I thought this was a pretty good card. My husband approved it as a manly card because it had no bling, it had no ribbon. He does like that embossing in the background. It gives it just a little bit more texture. You can see it when I hold it closer to the light that there is a lot of texture in that background. So let's pull out the kit. This is yet a third color for that card. And these are the pieces parts. Oh, they're stuck. I don't know why they always seem to get stuck, just when I don't want them to. Okay, so I'm going to set these top pieces aside and do the inside first, just because it's so easy to do. This actually does not have the stamping on it, and I failed to bring the stamps with me to make this video, so I'm going to check real quick. You know, I don't think that I do have those stamps. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble the card. I'm not going to attach this piece because I want to stamp it before I attach it. But I will show you how it's assembled. And the kits that I gave out that day, I did do the stamping. This piece on the inside, wishing you happiness on your special day, that's just going to get stamped right in here. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to attach this to the inside of the card. And actually, I'm going to put this piece on first, because if there are any overlapping pieces, I can snip those off. So this is just another little strip of that paper that's on the front, just to carry that design into the inside of the card. And I put that here close to the bottom, just to give it a little interest on the inside. And then that way, if there is a little excess, you can trim it off. For this piece, there doesn't seem to be any excess, so we're good. And that's just going to go on the inside of the card. Okay. You can imagine that that sentiment is right there. Then on the front of the card, I'm putting down a piece of white cardstock. The card base is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4 inches. And then the piece that's on the inside is 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. Actually, it's not. I made this a little bit tinier than I usually do. So this piece is actually 3 7/8 inches by 4. Wait a minute. By 5 1/8 inches. And that's the same with this piece on the front, because I wanted a very narrow margin. I wanted to show a little bit more of the outside edge, the card base, than I usually do. So I cut that just slightly smaller than usual, 1/8 of an inch smaller. This piece of patterned paper is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. and that's just going to go right over the white, and as you can see, it's just giving you a tiny little 1/16 of an inch border. Oh, I have 2 of these pieces, and I only need 1. So this is taking the place of ribbon, because like I said, it was supposed to be a manly card, and I thought, well, you know, that kind of knocks ribbon right out of the picture. So instead, I embossed this piece of cardstock with a wood grain embossing folder, and thought that would kind of give the same effect of ribbon, but it's not actually ribbon. And then I lined this piece up, and this piece is 3/4 of an inch by 3 3/4 inches. And actually I'm going to use this to kind of line it up in the same spot. If you have grid paper, that really helps to line things up straight going across. Or in this case, this is a cutting mat. This last piece we have white, and this piece is actually 2 7/8 inches by 2 inches. I'm sorry. Yeah, by 2 inches. Okay, and this piece is going to go over it. This piece is a little bit smaller. It is 2 3/4 inches by, I guess this was 1 7/8. This is 1 3/4 inches. So that's just going to again give you a pretty narrow edge there. I guess I could have done that a little closer, but that's okay. Okay, and then the happy, which on the card, the actual card will say happy birthday when I stamp that on there, is a little bit smaller. That is actually 2.5 inches by 1.5 inches, and that's going to line up in the center of this other piece of cardstock. Okay, now we have our happy, and I will pull out the stamp set and stamp the birthday on there later on. I can tell you, I think I can tell you what the name of the stamp set is. Well, maybe I can't, because I can't seem to put my hands on it at the time, but it has both the happy and the birthday on it, and I stamped the birthday in black ink so that just stands out. So those are 3 of the colors of that card, and I apologize for the oops on there not having the stamp, but you can still get the general idea of how the card is made. This last card, I love this card. This is, I think, my favorite card that I've made in a long time. I just love these little flip-flops. They are so darn cute. So for this card, we have the card base. I don't know, I kind of like the flamingo one I did on my last video as well. Okay, so these are the pieces parts for the front, and as usual, I'm going to set those aside for the time being, and we'll just go ahead and assemble the inside. I used, for this card, again, the card base is 8.5 inches wide, 5.5 inches tall, and it's scored at 4 1/4 inches. I used a die set called Deckled, and you can see this reminds me of the old photographs. When I was a kid, we used to take our film in to have it developed, and it would come back with these deckled edges on the photos, and I just thought that was so cool. It's kind of it looks a little bit like kind of a retro thing, but not it also has a modern look to it, so I kind of like that, and that's what I used for these pieces to make these pieces parts. So this piece is going to go on the inside, and I just centered that. And then life is better in flip-flops. Indeed it is. The last time I went to my doctor's office, he looked at my feet, which of course I've been in the sun, and he just took one look at him and said, "Oh, you're still wearing flip-flops." Yes, I'm still wearing flip-flops. I suppose at the tender age of 70 I shouldn't be, but I do, and I love them. Okay, that's the inside. Now for the front, I have those same two cuts. I've got this piece that's going to go on the front first. Actually, I'm approaching 71 in about 3 weeks. But that's okay. It's just a number. And physically, there are days when I feel like 71, but mentally, I'm still in my 20s. I don't care. I used to say when I was younger that I get along with, I can carry on a conversation and be comfortable with anybody from like 18 to 50. Well, I've kind of changed that, so I figure now everybody between, oh, I don't know, 18 and 80 is about my age, at least mentally. Okay, flip-flops. Fun little flip-flop paper that I found from my stash. Then I made this die cut with my scan and cut, these two shapes. I found this image online, and it was a huge image, so I reduced it down to the size I wanted on my computer, and then I printed it. I outlined these with my fine tip black pen, and then I copied them. I scanned them onto my computer and cut them out with my scan and cut, and then I increased the size and made the little mat that goes under it. So that's just going to get attached. One on top of the other. And those should line up pretty well and give you a little border around the edge. Okay, now here comes the really fun part. Oh, you know, before I do that, I'm going to put the bling on. I found this fun bling at the Dollar Tree, I think, and it was just so cute. Well, I guess now it's $1.25 tree because everything is $1.25 now. So this was what I used, and I actually have several of them. It's ribbon, so all of those are attached to each other, but I actually have a little bag of some of them that had already been cut off. So I'm going to see if I can find two that match up, and I think right off the bat I'm seeing a couple of purple ones here that I think I might want to use. So what I'm going to do is take my scissors, and I'm just going to trim off that edge. And I found this there fairly recently. I know it was sometime around the end of April or the beginning of May. This is, if you're watching this way into the future, this is 2022. Those don't actually look the same color now that I'm looking closer, so maybe I will look for something else. These two, I think, look kind of fun, so I'll use those. They're multicolor. So I'm going to set these others aside, and I did need to use glue dots for these because these are not, since it was intended to be ribbon, they don't have any adhesive on them. But these glue dots are just about the right size, so I'm just going to put one glue dot on each one of these and then attach them to the flip-flops, because flip-flops need to have a little bling sometimes. There you go. Those are ready. Now, here is this fun piece. This is the element that's going to make everything pop up. So what I did first is there is a thick side, and a very thin side, very paper thin side. So on the thin side, I removed this backing. There's an adhesive backing on there. So once I removed that, I was able to attach this piece to the center of the flip-flops. Okay, now we have the thick side. This is the plastic side. So for this, I removed the backing, and then I took the whole thing and I just put it on the front of the card, like so. And now we have, check this out, how fun is that? Okay, so that was the card, and these are all the cards. Happy, 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 and the bee. The bee. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps you to assemble your cards. Again, this is not going to be on my blog, but those of you who were in the class or who purchased the kits for the class will know how to get a hold of me if you have any questions. So thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful week.